When do you stop seeing yourself as a project that needs to be fixed, and when do you actually start living life? This is something that's been going through my mind rent free because since like 2020, I've been on this never ending journey of self development, of self growth, of self improvement. And I just realized that I'm in this constant shield of self improvement, self awareness, always over analyzing every single thing that comes through my mind to the point where I'm not actually living the life that I want to live. You need to understand that the reason why you're improving, the reason why you're being a person that self improves is because you want to actually live a good life. I'm going to give you a little backstory. Since I've been a teenager, I have been going through the motions of almost what every teenager goes through: being depressed, being anxious, being very hyper aware of what people think about you. And then in 2020, I decided, you know what, I'm going to take life by the horn. If that's the right saying. I'm going to take life by the horn and then, fix myself. This actually helped in the sense that I wasn't really, wallowing in self-pity anymore. I started sort of putting myself out there because of this whole self-improvement journey that I was going on. Guys, every single book, every self-improvement book that you can think of, I have read it. Every self-improvement book that you can think of, I have read it. Everything that has to do with changing your reality, everything that has to do with fixing your identity, everything that has to do with just being the best version of yourself and letting go of past trauma. I've actually read it, watched different videos. My YouTube algorithm basically only brings up videos that show how to improve yourself, how to fix yourself, how to change your identity, how to do this. It got to a point where that was all I was consuming. I was in this never-ending loop of, I want to fix myself. I want to be the best version of myself. In fact, I started being a therapist. Well, I wouldn't use the word therapist, but I started being the person that, would sort of coach people, talk to my friends and say, okay, you know what, you guys, we need to do this. This is how you go about things. This is how you go about life. I started being that person because of the amount of knowledge that I've consumed, and I'm basically giving that knowledge to people. This is another reason why I'm doing this video in the first place. I consumed so much knowledge, started giving it out to people. These people that I'm giving this knowledge out to are implementing these things while I'm here just gathering knowledge. Of course, some things I'm implementing, but there's this false sense of you're actually doing work when you're not. So in the sense of, let's say you're planning, if you want to create a YouTube video, for example, and you're here, writing out the script, you're, looking for the best lighting, looking for the best, just basically setting everything up. It gives you this false sense of achievement because you feel like, okay, I'm doing something to it. I'm working towards it. But in the actual sense, you're not, because you're not doing the thing. You're just planning to do the thing. So that's the same thing with this constant loop of self-improvement, because you're consuming the knowledge of self-improvement, but you're not actually working towards self-improvement. There are a lot of books that actually have practical exercises that you can do, and those books are books that I would sort of recommend people to actually, read. I don't know why that took so long for me to say, but those are books that I would recommend for people to read because it actually urges you to do the exercises week by week or day by day or month by month. But when you're in this constant loop of, I want to read this book, I want to read this, I want to watch this YouTube video, you're seeing different YouTube videos, your TikTok algorithm is basically self-improvement, manifestation, it gets to a point where you're not doing these things anymore. You're basically just learning how to do them. Then you sit and ask yourself, am I actually improving? And then you get into this point where you have consumed so much, so you expect yourself to be at a certain level. You have already consumed so much knowledge. You know why, you know what is holding you back. But the thing about human beings is that we are not logical beings. We are not logical at all. I know when people are like, oh, I'm very logical, I'm more logical than emotional. No, we're not. Like, even the logic that you think you are, there's emotion driving you towards that logic. So we're not logical beings. You might know the reason why you're acting a certain way, but if you don't actually work through the problem, if you don't do the shadow work, I'm using all the terminologies, but if you actually don't go down to the nitty gritty of the issue, you're gonna keep having the issue no matter how many books you read. But you see, the thing is, we're reading these books and we're expecting, okay, I know I'm reading this book, I know what is wrong, I know what I'm supposed to do, but I'm not doing it. Then you start feeling like a failure. Then you start shielding yourself. Then you start isolating, because you cannot release yourself out until you get to that point where you feel like you've done the work. So at some point, self-improvement becomes very detrimental, because you already know, I'm supposed to be here. And the thing with self-improvement, the thing with, living your life the best way you want to live it, is that it's not a linear, like, healing is not linear, especially when you're going through a lot of trauma. Healing is not linear at all. You might think, I'm over this thing. Trust me, it's going to creep up on you in the most unexpected way possible. You're thinking, oh, I'm over this, thing that happened to me when I was 12 years old. Something is going to happen to you in like a grocery store, and it just triggers all those emotions. And then, it puts you in a place where you're just like, what is going on? And then the logical part of you is thinking, Lydia, you know why this is happening. Why are you going back to this? And then you start beating yourself up because, oh, I know better. That's like where self-improvement also just, encapsulates you. Because everything that you're doing, you're telling yourself, I know better. I know better. I know better. So why am I doing this? I know better. But the thing is, as I said, we're human beings. We're very emotional. We're very, like, everything about us is very emotional, very biological. Like, we're wired in a way that can't even be explained at some point. I mean, science can explain it to an extent, but a lot of the things that we do don't really have logic attached to it. It's more metaphysical, that's another topic for another day, to be fair. But when you get into this point where you think you have to completely heal before you start living life, you're going to remain stuck for a while. That's another reason why I haven't started completely posting my YouTube channel. I felt like I needed to heal to a certain point. I felt like I needed to have, the best. Obviously, that's perfectionism, that's a different topic also. But there's this feeling, I feel like I have to, overcome my fear of being seen. I need to overcome this need for validation. But how would you actually overcome these things if you don't practice it? I'm not putting myself out there, so I don't even know how I'm going to act when someone is judging me. This is the issue. You're consuming so much self-help, you don't care when people judge you, you don't do this. But you're not even putting yourself out there to the point where you know how you act in these situations. You've shielded yourself so much. You think you've healed, or you think you're healing, but the thing is, you're isolating yourself. So when these issues arise, you think you're regressing. It's not that you're regressing. You've just never been faced with that situation. You've never confronted that situation, so you don't even know how you're going to act in that situation. That's why I feel like when you're self-improving, there's this constant need that everyone preaches: isolate yourself, do this, do that. But isolation is not good for human beings. Biologically, we're not wired to be alone. when you say you crave being alone, when you say you don't want to be with people, when you say, I'd rather be alone, I would rather live alone for the rest of my life, I need you to understand that there is something biologically wrong with you. I'm not saying this to shame you, but there is something biologically wrong with you if you want to be in isolation. It's this false sense of safety that being alone gives you, because you don't really have to face a lot of the problems or a lot of the issues that you have. You don't have to confront it. You know, you're living in this cocoon, and when you actually live your life, when you're actually interacting with people, you have to actually be accountable for, you know, the things like your confidence, your consistency, because you're with people. So there's some form of accountability that comes with it. And that's why you're just, you know what, I'm just going to be alone, isolate, heal, and then when I'm done healing, I can come out to the world. It doesn't work that way, my darling. It does not work that way. We need to understand that being visible is much more vulnerable than actually being broken. Being visible is much more vulnerable than being broken, because everyone is seeing you. Everyone is seeing what you're going through. Everyone is seeing how you move. And that just feels like, you know, you're naked out into the world. But that is how to, like, healing is not linear. Healing doesn't have a stop date. You can't actually stop healing. And when you say, oh, I need to heal before I get into a relationship, I need to heal before I get a job, I need to heal before I make friends, you can't. Because healing is not like a drug that you take and then you get better, because it's more like exposure therapy, right? You need to actually face the situations where you need to face the situations where you are confronted with the things you're trying to heal from. So, for example, you don't have the best luck when it comes to relationships because you're very avoidant in relationships. You want to sit back and say, you know what, I'm going to sit down, I'm going to heal, I'm going to fix my avoidance, attachment style, without actually being in a relationship. You can't. Like, you actually can't. Obviously, you can, to an extent, just work through some certain trauma, you know, understand what is making you be this person, go to therapy, see people you need to see, talk things out with people. But you don't even know if you have changed yourself, if you're no longer avoidant, if you don't get into a relationship and face those problems. You need to get into a relationship, see the fact that you're about to like run away, and then confront that. That is where, like, healing is basically exposure therapy. You can't say, oh, I'm going to heal, and I'm going to heal first before getting a job. Or, I mean, with this world now in capitalism, you can't even take that risk of saying I want to heal before getting a job, except if, like, you know, you're set for life. But you need to understand that you can't choose one out of the other. You have to heal and live at the same time. You have to be someone that is going through the motions of life while still trying to go through those motions with utmost what's the word to use? I don't have a word to use. So I understand all of this, and I'm still learning how to live. I'm still practicing joy. I'm still trying to be okay with being seen. I'm still figuring out how to actually stop overworking my healing process and actually start living life. So one of the things that I do is basically do one joyful thing a week with no purpose. Like, not for healing, not for productivity, not for improvement, just life. Just doing something that I really want to do. Something that will bring me joy. Today, I did my makeup. and it brought me joy, because I'm not someone that naturally just goes out of my way and does my makeup, but I just did it because it brought me joy. I didn't have to do it. I didn't have to do anything. This is something that brings me joy. Another thing that is bringing me joy is actually doing this video. It's not perfect. I'm probably going to do better videos in the future, but I'm just doing this because I want to do it. Another thing is, stop turning every moment into a self-analysis. Not everything needs a lesson. You don't have to, analyze why you acted that way. You don't have to analyze every situation and analyze the possible outcomes, because that is what keeps you in this constant loop of wanting to heal or wanting to find complete healing before putting yourself out there to the world. No, don't do that. And also, let yourself take up emotional space. Let yourself take up emotional space again. Show up, try things, be messy, grow, be visible, like do things that you don't necessarily do. Give yourself permission to exist in a way that can be seen as being cringe. Give yourself permission to exist in that way. Practice receiving good things without guilt. You need to be able to practice receiving life without guilt, like the good things of life without guilt. You need to let joy enter you without questioning its intentions, without thinking, oh, why is this happening? Is this No, guys, you need to actually let life you need to live life and just understand that healing is not a linear process. You can't hold on living life because you want to heal. So I just wanted to end with, you don't actually stop healing. Everything I've been saying, I'm not telling you to stop healing. I'm not telling you to stop reading self-improvement books. I'm just telling you to stop letting healing be the reason you're not living life. The question is not when do we stop healing, it's when do we actually allow ourselves to be seen living again. You need to live life regardless of how you come across. I'm not saying obviously be a menace to society. I'm not saying be a menace to yourself. I'm not saying be a menace to your friends or family. All I'm saying is just allow yourself to do things or to exist guilt-free, even if it's not the perfect version that you're looking towards, because that's what is actually going to guide you into being a better version of yourself. Once you start putting yourself out there, then you see, this is not what I want, this is what I want, and then you get to that point where you are actually living life and healing. So thank you guys so much for listening. More conversations soon.